I knew, and we're going to talk about Chennis Berry right now because listen, Chennis Berry, South Carolina State, he was running the game at Benedict. Now he's running the game in the MEAC at South Carolina State. Succeeded head coach Buddy Pugh. We all knew because you knew this, Arielle. We knew he was going to replace Buddy Pugh. We talked about it last year when Buddy Pugh retired. We knew that was going to be the next coach of South Carolina State, but he became the coach. And he sort of brought that same level of defensive intensity, commitment to the run game, offensive, defensive line doing their thing. And he ran the gambit in the MEAC. And he's going to be going back to Atlanta because he was in Atlanta last year for the SIC championship. And now he's going to be in Atlanta as the MEAC champion in the Celebration Bowl. So, Arielle, listen, you've covered South Carolina State all year. That's been your game of the week countless times, and I've been jealous of you because that's been way better football to watch. So I got to get your thoughts, Arielle. So, what are your thoughts on Chennis Berry's success and just the massive victories in the MEAC and the fact that they're the MEAC champions and they're going to be in the Celebration Bowl this year?
I mean, like I was just explaining to you, my pick, for everybody that doesn't know, my pick was actually going to be North Carolina Central. I think they have been proving themselves all season, especially when it comes to you're losing your main quarterback in Davius Richard. You don't have those big boys on top anymore. You are working with kind of some rookies or people that have just come up from second string or third string who are finally getting off the bench and working around. I think Walker Harris did an amazing job. But when you just think about what Chennis Berry has done here, came in throughout all the rumors, and we talk about he's never going to win against these white teams. He's not going to have any wins in the conference. It's his first year. How far can he really go? And you're seeing South Carolina State ending their season 9-2 overall, but undefeated in conference play. Just in his first year, and like how you were describing, we really didn't think all of the mistakes that South Carolina State had for these past 2 years, Chennis Berry could come in and just fix. As you said, we did have Buddy Pugh, excellent coach, going down in HBCU history, changed lives, changed the way that we played on the field, changed the game, outdid some of the opponents, even hitting some of their rivals in Howard and North Carolina Central. But when you look at Chennis Berry developing that backfield and Kazarius Adams, just one of their super weapons that they had this year, getting Eric Phoenix to come and be one of the most extreme and amazing quarterbacks that we have seen come across South Carolina State, developing a whole defense led by Johnson. It's literally been incredible to watch them defy records and defy goals. And now they're on their way as a first year coach into the Celebration Bowl, which I don't think anybody has done and went to the Celebration Bowl in MEAC history in their first year as being a coach. So now he's back in Atlanta, about to defend the title, whoever wins this SWAC championship. And I would have to say, depending on who they play, if South Carolina ends up beating Jackson State, which to me would be not South Carolina, if Southern ends up beating Jackson State, and they end up going to the Celebration Bowl, to me, I think that's just that's a run through Celebration Bowl. Chennis Berry really just has no competition to me. But we're thinking about if we really want a good game and Jackson State does what needs to be done and he comes plays Chennis Berry, the thing that Chennis Berry does have on Jackson State is a better run game. They have more weapons. To me, they have a more controlled quarterback. Eric Phoenix has, on this total season, been passing over 60% accuracy. That's as best as it's going to get, especially if you're making really long passes. He loves to shoot down the field, but he also is a runner. You get that from Jackson State as well, but I just feel like Eric Phoenix is a little bit more polished than that. Then you have a really good defense, and at times, Jackson State's defense has been iffy. We're looking at a team that really hasn't found their control during the season. They'll have a good game, and then they have a bad game. South Carolina State, what Chennis Berry has done, has been discipline, it's been consistency, it's been we're going out here, we're going to win games. This is their second winning streak that they've had. They won their last 3 games in dominant fashion over Howard, Morgan State, and Norfolk State. So we're looking at a team that is prepared, who has essentially flipped roles with Central and is now saying that I'm going to run the MEAC. And if I had to guess, if I had to make a prediction, I would say if they want to go ahead and do a 3-peat with two more Celebration Bowls, that's fine. Because the culture that Chennis Berry has built within the South Carolina State school is not going anywhere. To have a run like this, even if they don't win, the recruitment is about to go up. They might want to pay Chennis Berry more. And then you might see a lot of transfers happening. You see that how he's developing his running backs, how his defense looks. People want to play for winning teams. And for like how I believe defense wins games, you need somebody like that. Chennis Berry has had an amazing season, and congratulations to South Carolina State. I really don't see anybody pushing them through. The only thing that could make this better if they would have won their first 2 games, but I mean, ending the season on 9-2, I can't say that's bad. None of their losses came from any in-conference play, so it's, to me, a win's a win here. Either way you look at it, Chennis Berry is winning. 2024 is his year, and congratulations to that team again. They've played amazing. Probably the best games that we watched all year.
Exactly. And I'm just going to add to what you just said, because I feel like I'm the Chennis Berry historian at this point, because like just seeing what he did at Benedict, him being an SIC graduate, going to Savannah State, being an offensive lineman that was doing his thing at Savannah State in the 1990s. He comes to Benedict. They go 5-5 their first year. But from 2022 to 2024, in 2 conferences, he has not lost a conference game. He swept through the SIC in 2022 to win the first SIC championship. Then somehow, some way, that team got better. They swept through the SIC again, and then he won another SIC championship. Then he goes to the MEAC, sweeps through the MEAC, and now he's going to the Celebration Bowl. I think that has to really be stated and really be talked about the way that we're talking about it, because that says to me that he always was going to be this great. He knew how to do his job, and folks got to stop sleeping on these Division II coaches. Like I wrote an article on ClutchPoints last week where I talked about how Chennis Berry's success should dispel this notion that, oh, you can't bring in Division II coaches. Have they won yet? Have they won in the playoffs? Oh my gosh, we can't bring him in, because what happens if he makes it to the FCS playoffs? He's going to lose these white schools. That whole entire conversation, which I'm not going to say that it was totally invalid. I disagreed. I'm not going to say it was totally invalid, but you have to look at the makeup of what Chennis Berry is. Chennis Berry is a former offensive lineman. So you know the offensive line is going to be straight. And you know from what you saw at Benedict that the defensive line is going to be straight. Then on top of that, and Chennis Berry talked about it. It's not just me saying this. Chennis Berry said, I heard what everybody was saying, that, oh, we got these D2 players, this D2 coach. Those D2 players, Eric Phoenix was arguably the best quarterback in HBCU football this year. But what I heard, Arielle, is, oh, these Division II players, like, oh, only the skilled players are good, but the quarterbacks, I want to see them against tougher competition. They just be playing Fort Valley and Albany and Tuskegee. Why don't they play Ferris State and Grand Valley? Well, how about he plays North Carolina Central, trucks a guy, and then even Pat McAfee says, yo, this guy's dope. What about that? What about all the amazing things that Caden High did all year? What about DeAndre Duhart? What about the fact that he recruited Casey Adams, and Casey Adams was doing his thing? What about the fact that he beat the Citadel and Tennessee Tech? And low-key, if you want to talk about it, that win over Tennessee Tech that South Carolina State did helped Eddie Jordan, Tennessee State, get into the FCS playoffs. Let's talk about that, because a lot of folks were playing with Chennis Berry, and he heard it. Listen, he be praying, he be saying praise the Lord, but he has ears. Oh, he has ears. He heard all the talk of all these folks, Arielle. It wasn't us, because we knew. We knew from the jump that he was going to be at South Carolina State. We knew from the jump that he was going to be successful, and we saw it. And then the crazy part about it is, I don't know how I did this. Maybe God was speaking to me. But I picked them to beat North Carolina Central. And oh my gosh, I was like, I am going to be right in my picks, because you know what? Chennis Berry ain't gonna let me down, because there's a philosophy in him and that coaching staff that we knew was gonna work. And people always talk about, oh, the FCS playoffs, oh, the Division II is so weak. They didn't play anybody in the CIAA. In that first playoff matchup, you heard me say this before, Arielle, in that first playoff matchup against Wingate had one of the best defenses in Division II. And they really had identical stats in that game, Wingate and Benedict. But the only thing that Wingate was able to do that stifled Benedict was stop the run game. Only 38 rushing yards for Benedict that game, which is really something you wouldn't expect from a Chennis Berry team. And then you look at Lenore Ryan. And you look at how they were coached by Mike Jacobs, who's now the coach at Mercer, doing his thing at Mercer. If we want to talk about these D2 coaches going to the FCS, he has them in the playoffs at this point, and they were going back and forth, tit for tat, and Chennis Berry and Benedict were succeeding in that game. And then people were like, oh, well, they just gave up. Chennis Berry got our coach. I didn't see Chennis Berry get our coach, in my opinion. I saw a team that just gave out of gas, and Lenore Ryan just found a way to win. But guess what? Lenore Ryan blew out Valdosta State. Lenore Ryan blew out all the teams, the two teams that they faced until they got beat by Harding in the Division II playoffs going into the championship. So for me, people try to invalidate Chennis Berry's success. You can't invalidate this. Because we can't say, well, he took over Buddy Pugh's team. He had all Buddy Pugh's players. Or Buddy Pugh just developed these guys. Chennis Berry took it over. No, you can't say that. Because it's the transfer portal era. And people want to be like, oh, these transfer portal, these kids just be leaving. There's no team loyalty anymore. Guess what? Without team loyalty, with players hopping in the transfer portal, like Sam Howell, for example, that Arielle, we went crazy over when he rushed for over 200 yards against Howard University. We were trying to figure out what happened. Sam Howell left. He was at South Carolina. So you had a lot of players from that Buddy Pugh team that left. There were some guys that stayed, but you had a lot of players from that Buddy Pugh team, a lot of key players that graduated and that left. And he brought in a lot of his Benedict guys, and he got other recruits. And guess what? He won. Chennis Berry is going to be an HBCU coaching legend. We are going to be mentioning him with Eddie Robinson. If I am wrong, I'm wrong. I stand on it. But we're going to be mentioning him alongside Eddie Robinson, Pete Richardson, like Jake Gaither. We're going to be mentioning him amongst the greatest HBCU coaches in history if he decides to stay at the HBCU level. Because here's the thing now we got to look at, because if Chennis Berry keeps winning in the MEAC, and especially if he wins some out-of-conference games, he beats some Sun Belt teams, some FBS teams like how A&T used to do back in the day, don't you think that some of these schools going to come calling? Especially these Group of 5 teams? Like FIU's open right now. They talking about Willie Simmons. You got FAU's open right now. So it's going to be other jobs that's open. Jerry Mack, who was at North Carolina Central, is at Kennesaw. So I'm just saying. Like I hope that Chennis Berry continues to stay in HBCU football. He becomes that new Buddy Pugh at South Carolina State. But we're looking at a special coaching talent. It's not just him; it's the players he recruited and it's his coaching staff. But the Chennis Berry experience. Listen, I know about it, Arielle. I know about it because Fort Valley got beat down on ESPN, and we got beat down on homecoming on ESPN. So I know about the Chennis Berry experience. So, Arielle, I'm very excited for Chennis Berry. I'm very excited for South Carolina State. And listen, we're not talking about the Celebration Bowl on this show. But listen, I'm excited for Atlanta too. Not gonna lie to you.
I mean, you just think about the turnover rate in head coaches that have been happening at HBCU. As you just said, Jerry Mack going to Kennesaw State, Lee Hall out for Delaware State. There are a lot of coaches that don't get to stay where they are, nor new head coaches that have come in their first 2 seasons that haven't even had a turnaround. So to come into South Carolina State from back-to-back championships, from having really good players, when you're looking for coaches like that, that's what you want. You want coaches that bring in players that you know are going to be really good. We want coaches to bring in players that are going to be a great quarterback, that can set up the run, that have great RPO options, have great sense of the field. Bring in a backfield like that, bring in a defense like that. The only thing that I do wish, and I know that I've caught myself doing it or whatever, I don't wish for the dullness of his success. If his success is out of HBCUs, then I want him to go. I think that his time is not up. Not saying just because he did his years in the SIAC or also doing his years in the MEAC. I think that if he has more to give, he has more to give. But you're looking at these other teams. Maybe he wants to go into the Big South. Maybe he wants to go to the CAA. Maybe he wants to get out of that and try a conference that's just not in HBCUs. Maybe he wants to go try to the SAC, the ACC. Maybe he wants to try other colleges. But the success that he is having within the MEAC, I would say go for it. I would say push for it. I would say keep giving Trey Oliver the mess that you had gave him this year. keep destroying hopes and dreams for other teams because this is something that he is good at. But I necessarily, and although it's contrary to belief and not something that HBCUs have a good point on, because there is a really bad turnover rate. I think it's over a 60% turnover rate within the first 2 years of HBCU coaches, which is kind of terrible depending on what you're doing. But I wouldn't say it's all the coach's fault. You know, most state funded colleges or private colleges, especially HBCUs, have a hard time trying to keep staff when it comes to payroll and other good stuff. But that's neither here nor there. Chennis Berry stays. South Carolina State is running the MEAC for the next 3 to 4 years. If he does decide to leave within 2 years, I think he has done everything that he needed to do. And I should want to see him in a space where he could be recognized and internalized forever. Not saying he can't do that in HBCU sports, but this man here is literally touched by God. Literally, God just said here. This man has more than what South Carolina State could give him. But like you said, congratulations, option for him. But I wouldn't see him staying for a long time, but I love what he's doing.
Yeah, that's fair. Like for me, I've become more liberal in my thoughts about coaches leaving, because if you know from when we started doing the show, I'm like, no, stay, stay, stay. But like now, I understand. I get it. Like I've grown within my thought process. If Chennis Berry's success leads him to go FBS, I would prefer that he go FBS as a head coach. And I'm not disparaging Willie Simmons for becoming a running back coach. I'm not disparaging that at all. If he became offensive line coach for like South Carolina, I mean, you making money, I ain't mad at you. But like, I'm just saying, like, I want him with his level of success to not have to ride the pond. You know what I mean? Because I feel like with a lot of HBCU coaches, even in their success, they have to then go and be an assistant coach or a positions coach. And it's like, why do you have Willie Simmons coaching running backs? Now, he's making money, and the Duke running backs were really good this year. Okay. But like, why does Willie Simmons have to go coach running backs? Why can't his HBCU success be good enough for him to go leave a middling, at least group of 5 program? Because we typically know that at that group of 5 program, they'll go up and they'll go to another one of the Power 5, Power 4 schools. So I feel that. I'm rocking with Chennis Berry wherever he go. Because I tell you what, Arielle, because if he says, you know what, South Carolina State, listen, it's been real, okay? 2 celebration bowls. We made the SCS playoffs. I won a game. I'm out here. Guess what, Arielle? He got a Savannah State University degree, okay? So he's going to always be an HBCU guy. And no matter what, if he's successful, if he win a national championship, I'm going to be like, HBCU alumnus who wins the national championship.
You're so shady. So shady to all the people that decide to leave halfway through their HBCU. You know, I'm not disagreeing with you though. He is a true blue blood HBCU graduate. But I don't disagree. It's a little shady for all them people that slick type be leaving, but want to claim the HBCU for 2 years. But it's cool. It's fine.
Hey, I just want to say before we move on, I just want to say that every time I look at Chennis Berry's success, as a Fort Valley State alum, I'm a little bit upset because I'm not saying we could have like secured his services in 2020, but we did relieve Coach Porter of his duties in 2019. And Chennis Berry was a free agent, and we signed Maurice Flowers, who, in hindsight, Maurice Flowers is an amazing coach. He got us Shamar British, he got us Kevin Durham, he got us Emmanuel Wilson, who's in the NFL right now. He's the one that brought those guys in, and I wish he would have stayed longer, but he left, and he went to Johnson C. Smith, and they had a phenomenal season this year. But a part of me wonders, what if Fort Valley had got Chennis Berry in Wildcat Stadium with Chick-fil-A not that far away, okay? I just wonder at this point, but it's
I love how you went into your Jerry Jones owner head. We relieved somebody. He was a free agent, but we decided not to pick him out. We went with the other option. I'm like, whose team manager is this? Who has Randall been talking to? Because man is out here trying to draft coaches. It's okay. We'll do a draft coach episode very soon because there are going to be a lot of new coaches next year.
True, but hey, but listen, I gotta say this. You gotta understand I'm in my GM era because the Hawks, they go into the NBA Cup, but the Lakers are struggling. Okay, so someone needs to be a general manager. We gotta move some pieces, okay? Because I'm a Hawks and Lakers fan. I also root for Timberwolves and the Grizzlies. So yeah. Anyway, okay. Anyway, I do. I you gotta have multiple teams.